Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome back to the intermediate accounting class. In our earlier video, we have discussed about some of the important terminologies of accounting, the rules for debit and credit, the accounting cycle, and etc. Our today discussion is about the adjusting journal entries. We have touched only this slide in our earlier video, but now we will explain it in much more detail. So what is adjusting entries and how we can use the adjusting entries? What is the purpose for which we are using the adjusting entries? Dear students, remember that in our earlier video we have explained that we may use adjusting entries for three purposes. The first purpose is to recognize the revenue. Recognition of revenue means that is this revenue generated at the same period. Second, we will use this for the matching purpose, and I mean the expenses that we have done during the period, is it used for the same revenue or for other things. So that's for this purpose we will use this adjusting entries. And finally, to prepare the financial statements for the period, so we are required to prepare the adjusting entries. This was the three important things for which we may use the adjusting entries. Now dear students, we will move towards the next slide where we have, like, for example, the types of adjusting entries. So let's to explain it that what are the different types of adjusting entries and how we can use this for our purpose. So the first type of adjusting entries is called unearned revenue. Unearned revenue is one of the type of adjusting entries. This means that we have received the cash. This is one part, but we haven't paid, but have not paid the services. Mean we have received the cash and like, for example, but not yet paid the services or the products. So two things is over here. One side we have, like, for example, we received the cash. So this means that we have already recorded, we should record the cash, but service is not paid. So see, like, for example, if I take an example that consider the Sharq Institute have received 6-month fee. Sharq received 6 months fee from Ahmad in advance, rupees AFN Awani 12,000. So dear students, here you may say that Sharq received, this means cash from Ahmad, but this cash is in advance. This means that Sharq have not paid until till now these services, and we haven't paid these services because we have received the money in advance, and this money is for the 6 months. So how we may record this into general journal. Consider that this is, like, for example, a format for general journal. We have, like, for example, 5 columns. Date column, like the description column, and we have, like, for example, the reference column, and we have the debit and credit column. Simply I will write down over here the titles, like, for example, this is date, this is date. So, and this is the description, this is the reference number, and this is debit record, and then we have the credit record. So see, we will record the same thing. So consider that this is January number 1, in which Sharq received the cash in advance. So let's do record it. This means that Sharq received cash. So first of all we will record the cash, and the amount of cash is how much? It is equal to 12,000. So Sharq received 12,000 in advance. Okay, very good. Now these 12,000 that Sharq received is like they haven't paid the services. It is account payable per Sharq, so it is unearned revenue. Unearned revenue. Unearned revenue. And unearned revenue is a type of what? It is a type of account payable as liability. So when the liability of the company or organization increases, we will record that at the credit side. So dear students, see, you have recorded this. This is what we received the cash, but another side we have one another thing, like for example we have one another thing which are called the liabilities. We have anchored liabilities, and we are payable, we are responsible, we are liable to pay them this amount. So for this purpose we may say that we need adjusting at the future date. So now dear students, here if you see for example after 1 month, how we will record it, how to adjust it. यानी د یوې میاشتې نه بعد به موږ دا څنګه ایڈجسټ کوو، د دې طریقه کار څنګه دی. So now let's to record after 1 month. So I will draw over here, like for example a very quick we may say journal, and here you will see this is the date column. This column is for description, and this column is for reference number, and this column is for debit and credit record. Now you will see over here, let's do for example write down the titles. This is the title for date, and this second title is for description. Third we have the reference number, and then we have the debit record, and then we have the credit record. So dear students, now after 1 month we will record this transaction. So after 1 month this will be the January 30th. Okay, so let's do record. Now it needs adjustment. So we have here, like for example the Sharq paid 6 months in advance. So this means that 12,000 divided by 6, it is equal to 2,000 per month. So at the end of 1 month we should make the adjustment entry for how much amount? For the amount of 12,000. For this 2,000 we should record the we should record this into general journal over here, and also 2,000 over here. But how we may record this? So see the procedure sanga de. No manga chide already we have received the cash, but we have one account titled unearned revenue, which was our liability account. So this means that we have now paid the services. So when we paid the services, it means that we have paid the liabilities. So we will record over here 2,000. But what happened in response? We have already, like for example, earned the money. Now this means that we have provided services rendered, and we have provided services to this person. That's why the unearned amount has been decreased. So how much we have, like for example rendered the services that were equal to 2,000 rupees, and that services were equal to 2,000. Now dear students, the unearned amount that we had, which were the credit entry, now it is a debit entry, and the services rendered that we do not have had this account. Now we have provided services to this person or to this individual, that's why we may record the services rendered as a credit entry, because it is now our revenue. At earlier time it was our liability. مخکې دا unearned revenue چې وه زموږ liability وه، نو موږ liability اوس پی کړله، دې کې موږ تاسو کوي نه liability مو ورکړله، یعنی معنا دا چې په liability مو څنګه خپله کمه کړه، په بدل کې موږ خدمات عرضه کړل services render، او خدمات عرضه کول چې دا زموږ دپاره څه شی دي، دا زموږ دپاره revenue ده، او کله چې revenue increase شي موږ یې باید چېرته ریکارډ کړو، په credit side کې. نو دا د adjusting entry د unearned revenue دپاره وه، یعنې دا موږ سره د adjusting entry یو ټایپ کېدلی شي. So dear students, that was the adjustment of unearned revenue. Now we will move towards the adjustment of the this was adjustment for the unearned revenue. Now we will record adjustment for the accrued revenue, how to record the accrued revenue and how to adjust it. So let's to explain about adjusting for accrued revenue. Accrued revenue. Okay, what does accrued revenue tell us? This means that we have earned revenue. We have earned revenue. यानी मंग पैसे गटली दी, खो तरोसा पूरे मो as a cash receive करी नहीं दी, but not yet received the cash या money. Yani we have already earned the money, we have charged the customers, but we haven't received the cash. We haven't received the cash. This is what we may say the accrued revenue. So this means that like consider an example. Sharq charged customers, and I mean Sharq charged Akram 12,000 for 6 months. یعنی دلته اوس مونږه مخکې چې دی د 6 months advance کې اخیستې وي، خو دلته چې دی اوس مونږه اکرم باندې د شپږ میاشتو پیسې ورواړولې، یعنی we have charged the customer, we have charged Akram for 12,000 rupees for how much period of time? For 6 months. And we paid 6 months services to Akram for, and the amount was equal to 12,000. Now dear students, let's to prepare a general journal for this. Consider that this is a general journal. This is like, for example, the date column, and this is the description column, this is the reference number, and this is the debit and credit column. Okay, very good. Now let's do write down the titles. Consider dear students that we have, like for example, again the first column is for date column, we have description column, we have reference number column, we have the debit record column, and we have the credit record column. So these are the different columns that we have in this journal. Now let's do a record for Akram. So this is January 1st. We have charged Akram for 12,000, but we haven't received the cash. So we have receivable, account receivable from Akram, and that is equal to 12,000 rupees. And in return or in response, what we have done, we have rendered services to Akram. Services rendered. So we have provided services to Akram, and these services were on credit. So this is record for the services rendered. Now we will move towards the second one. Like for example, we will record the after 1 month. So how to record it after after the payment of these money, after the after receiving this money. So now consider that at the end of January 30th, the Akram paid this money. So when Akram paid, this means that Akram will pay as cash. Okay, so this cash is how much? That were equal to 12,000. Why he is paying the cash? Because we had receivable from Akram. So we will decrease the account receivable from Akram account. Now it is equal to 12,000. So see, dear students, we have recorded the amount for it. Namangoile shuche unearned revenue, the haga revenue, the accrued revenue. It is a type of revenue that we have earned the money, okay, but not yet received the cash. So we have given you an example that at Sharq Institute of Higher Education there were students titled Akram, and Akram has received services from Sharq for 6 months, and its amount were equal to 12,000, but he haven't paid this money. So for Sharq it is receivable from Akram. So in next day at 30th January, the Akram paid cash to Sharq. So we have debited the cash account of Sharq, but we already have created account receivable from Akram. So now we will decrease the account receivable account of Akram, and we will remove it. So this is what we may say adjusting for the accrued revenue or for the accrued income. Okay, dear students, now we will move towards the second slide. In second slide we have a prepayment for expenses. This also need adjustment. Prepayment for expenses, so it's also need adjustment. So prepayment, or it's also called the advance payment. Data advance payment hum boile shi. So mean that payment has made in cash. Here we have already provided cash. Cash has paid in advance, okay, but not yet used the services. we have paid cash in advance but not yet used these the services that the service provider will provide us. So how we will record this into a general journal? Let's to have a general journal over here. Consider, dear students, that this is a general journal, and this is the 5 major columns in general journal, like the date column, the description column, and the reference number column, and then we have the column for debit and credit record. So this is the date column, and then we have the description column, then we have the reference number column, we have the debit record column, and we have the credit record column. So these are the columns that we may use over here. Okay, these are the 5 major columns in this general journal. Now let's do have an example for it, like for example prepayment for expenses. So consider that Sharq paid 6 months rent in advance, $36, $18,000. Consider this is the prepayment. We paid the rent in advance. So see, dear students, how you will record it. Consider this is January 1st or January 1. The Sharq paid in advance, so we may say prepaid rent. How much was the amount? $18,000. This is our asset account. This is our asset. And in return, what we should record over here? We paid the cash. We have paid the cash. So this cash is equal to how much amount? 18,000. 18,000. So this is the first record that we have recorded the transaction over here. Which one transaction? The transaction that we paid money in advance. Now after 1 month, how we will record it? Yeah, after 2 months. How to record this transaction when we use the services, and mean after 2 months. Yeah, 2 months later, how we will record it? So to record this after 2 months, we may use. Okay, dear students, so how to record this into general journal after 2 months? So see, this is like, for example, February 28. February 28. So how we will record this transaction? So dear students, if you see, we have prepaid rent. In response, we had cash. Now we do not have any cash transaction, but only we will have the rent expenses because we used the building, and that is equal to 6,000. If we divide 18 by 6, so it is equal to 3,000 per month. So 3,000 into 2 is equal to 6,000. And in response, what we will make the credit? So prepaid that we had already recorded earlier in the debit side, now we will record that at the credit side. So 6,000. So this is what we may say the recording way or the adjusting way for the transaction. See over here, prepaid rent we had as a debit entry. Now it is a credit entry over here. But in our earlier time, we had received the cash. We have paid the cash. The prepaid rent was an asset account. Now that rent has been converted into expenses account, and we record it as an expenses. Earlier time it was an asset record. Now dear students, let's do record about the accrued expenses. What does accrued expenses mean and how to record the accrued expenses? Accrued expenses. Okay, very good. Now accrued expenses mean like for example we used expenses has we used the expenses but we have not recorded that in the book up account. Used the expenses and services. We have used the services. Another way the expenses has anchored but not yet recorded. The expenses has anchored but not yet paid. We had expenses, we used the expenses, we used the for example the supplies or other things, but not yet paid the money. We use that. Expenses has occurred but not yet paid. So this means that liability has increased. Now let's record this into general journal. Consider that this is a general journal, and this general journal is having again 5 columns. The second column is for description, third column is for the reference number, and the fourth column is for the debit, and then for the credit record. Okay, very good. Now let's write down the titles of each column. So see, first column is the date column. Second column is description column. The third column is reference number. Fourth column is debit record, and the fifth column is credit record. Okay, dear students, consider an example. This example is for example, Sharq used electricity barq ra istifada kada for 60,000 AFN but not yet paid. شرق برق استفاده کړلو د 15,000 روپو خو تر اوسه پورې پیسې نه دي ورکړي. So see dear students, Sharq used the electricity, okay, very good, and but not yet paid. So this means the expenses has occurred, so we haven't paid the money. So let's record this transaction. This is again January 1st, and on this January we have used the electricity. So this means the electricity expenses. How much was the expenses? So we have already anchored, and expenses has anchored. Expenses waqi shuwi di. So we haven't paid the liabilities or the money. So it is an account payable account. Now when liability increases, you will record that as a credit record. So this is the first record for this transaction. Now after, like for example, when we pay this money, so how we will record it? And I mean, if we are making the adjusting entries, so consider that we are paying this amount at January 30th. So how we will record this? So we will decrease the account payable, which was our liability. It is a credit record. Now we will record that as a debit side because the liability has decreased. But in response, we will pay cash. So cash, when cash is decreasing, it is a credit entry. So dear students, this is what we may say the way of recording transaction or the way for adjusting the account. So we have discussed about the 4 types of adjusting entries. Dear students, what does closing journal entries mean? Now we are having discussion about closing journal entries. So closing journal entries is used for the nominal accounts. You are asking that what does nominal account mean? So nominal account means revenue and expenses account. So we have already done over here. If you see, all of these are nominal accounts. Like the unearned revenue is a nominal account because it's having like for example relationship with the revenue. Accrued revenue is a nominal account, and at the same way we have like for example the prepaid expenses. It is having relationship with the like expenses nominal account. At the same way we have also accrued expenses. So all of these are the nominal accounts that we have discussed earlier. So we will use the closing journal entries for this purpose, and we cannot use the closing journal entries for the real accounts or permanent account, and journal entries are not closed for the permanent accounts, but it may close for the revenue and expenses. Dividend account is close to retained earning account. What the dividend we have in the businesses, so it is close to the retained earning account. These are the steps. See dear students, scheme of closing the entries. Here we have expenses, and step 2 we have revenue. Both of them are the income statement account, and from revenue we will deduct all the expenses. So this means the closing, this need the closing, or these need the adjustment. But the dividend that we have, dividend, it is close to the retained earning. So these are some of the scheme or the ways through which we may close the entries to the business or to the accounts. And now we are having discussion about the closing entries, but by using different inventory system, that are the periodic inventory system and that is perpetual inventory system. Periodic inventory system is the one where we will record the transaction after a period of time, and perpetual is the one where we will record the transaction on daily basis. So when we are discussing about the inventory, so in periodic system we will record inventory as a, like for example as an expense account, and here it is needed at the end of the period that we should record the cost of goods sold and also the ending inventory. But in perpetual inventory system we will record the inventory as an asset, and we will not record that as in expenses. So that's why it does not require the entries or the closing entries. So in periodic system we need to record the transaction and the inventory accounts. په کومنګ چرته پیریاډک سیستم ولرو نو پاغه کې مونږ کله چې ترانزیکشن ریکارډ کوو او تاسو بل لیدلی وی چې کله مونږ پرچیز ګډز ولیکو نو استادانه ډایرکټ اس ان ایکسپنسز ریکارډ کوي. نو کله چې تاسو ایکسپنسز ریکارډ کړی تاسو مجبوری یاست چې د اینډ اف پیریډ کې تاسو د ګودام مالو ګوري چې په ګودام کې څومره مال اوس پروت دی هغه اس ان انوینټری بیا ریکارډ کوي. نو دا د پیریاډک سیستم لپاره د کلوزینګ انټری ضرورت شته. خو کچیر تاسو پرپیچوال سیستم استفاده کوئ چې پاره کې تاسو یو جنس واخلې اس ان اس ټی ریکارډ کې ایکسپنسز ریکارډ نه کوي نو خپل تاسو کولای شئ چې دا د خپل تاسو انټری په صحیح طریقې سره مخ کې تللی دي او دا ضرورت نه لري کلوزینګ انټریز ته. ډیر سټوډنټس د دې لپاره چې تاسو د کلوزینګ انټری په صحیح طریقې سره کړی وي او انکم سټیټمنټ مو صحیح طریقې سره جوړ کړی وي تاسو چې د ورکشیټ کومک ته ضرورت لري. ورکشیټ چې دا تقریبا ملټیپل کالم یو فارم دی یا یو فورمه ده چې هغه د ایڈجسټینګ انټریز او د ایڈجسټمنټ د پروسس د لپاره او د فاینانشل سټیټمنټ د جوړولو لپاره استفاده کیږي. د دې لپاره چې تاسو ورکشیټ استفاده کوئ دا فرض نه دی بلکې دا آپشنل دی یعنی دا تاسو خوښه ده چې تاسو د اکاونټینګ ریکارډ د استفادې لپاره ورکشیټ استفاده کوي تر څو تاسو په صحیح طریقې سره دغه څخه ایڈجسټمنټ کړی وي. نو خو ورکشیټ چې دی ډز ناٹ ریپلیس دی فاینانشل سټیټمنټ دا هغه مالی راپورونه چې دی ریپلیس کوي نه. کوم سټیپونه چې دی د ورکشیټ د جوړول لپاره موږ ته پکار دي اول موږ تاسو ته په ورکشیټ کې د ټریل بیلانس دوه کالم چې ډیبټ او د کریډټ کالم دی باید هغه ولرو. دغه نه بعد چې دی د ورکشیټ په جوړولو کې موږ ته وی نیډ دی ایڈجسټمنټ کالمز فار دی ټریل بیلانس. at the same way we will also use the adjusted balance or adjusted trial balance columns and also we will یعنی مين تاسو ولیدل چې موږ اول د ټریل بیلانس دوه کالم جوړو we will do this practice. دا غینه بعد چې موږ د ایڈجسټمنټ د جورنال انټریز لپاره کالمونه جوړو دا غینه بعد موږ ایڈجسټډ ټریل بیلانس جوړو دا غینه بعد چې د ایڈجسټډ ټریل بیلانس هغه اماونت معلومو او وایو چې دا د فاینانشل سټیټمنټ د کوم کالم سره تعلق لري او دا غینه بعد چې موږ لاس او پروفټ د انکم سټیټمنټ معلومو د ورکشیټ په ترو باندې. So dear students, I hope that you have understand about all this chapter. In this chapter we have discussed about the basic accounting terminology, the double entry system. We have learned about the accounting cycle. We have learned about the recording transaction in journal, preparing ledgers and also the trial balance. And also we have learned about adjusting entries. We have learned about closing entries and we have also learned that how to record the inventory by using perpetual and periodic system and we have learned about the worksheet which are the most important document for preparing the financial statements. Dear students, if you have any questions so please do not hesitate to contact with me through my email address or mobile number which is over here and if you do not have like for example these two things, these facilities, so please note all of your question come to institute. I will work with you to understand about these important chapter or about these important topics. Okay, if you do not have questions, so I wish you a very happy and successful life. Thank you. Have a good day. Enjoy your life. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.